everybody. Welcome to The Oldish. My name is Karen Brown. I'm so pleased to be your host and to welcome you here. I'm the publisher and editor of The Oldish, and I am so happy to welcome you every Wednesday at 12 noon to discuss anything and everything having to do with aging. I will also invite you to visit our website at theoldish.com, where you can find, over 1,500 articles now about various topics having to do with aging. Today, though, we're going to talk about a subject that has come my way through a variety of questions that have come from people who watch the show. Thank you very much. And they have written to me about questions they have, about some of the things that I've said, some of the thought processes they're going through themselves. And today's subject is all about the suitability of the house that you live in. And more than that, not just the house itself, but the location of the house, whether or not it's suitable for you as you age. Now, this business of the house itself, what's inside the four walls, is a huge subject, and I'm addressing that through a course that I'm writing. It's probably about a third done. It's a very, very deep subject with lots of bits and pieces, and I want to make sure we get that just right for you. But today's subject is going to be about the times when you have to leave your house. After all, we all have to do life, and life requires that we leave our house, or it should require that we leave our house. Regardless of the house or apartment you live in, there are things that you have to do. You have to go to the grocery store, you have to go to the pharmacy, you have to visit friends, go to church, keep doctor's appointments, visit your children and your grandchildren. All of these things generally require a car. Now, that's fine. Some of these things you may be able to walk to. Some of them you may be able to drive to. I'll bet you all of them you will drive to when it's raining or snowing outside, because that's what we do. At some point, though, we all give up driving. It's inevitable. And that's where the rubber really meets the road about the suitability of the location that your house is in. Now, Susan wrote asking me how on earth she should start even thinking about the place where she lives and whether or not she needs to move or to stay, go, move, get a roommate. She just didn't know where to even start. So that's a really good question, and I think it's one that we should all start thinking about and planning for as early as possible. So we're going to take a look at that to start with. Studies have shown that most people will walk about 1,500 feet. So people who are able to walk comfortably will walk about 1,500 feet to get whatever it is that they want to get or go wherever they want to go. After that, though, they're getting in the car and they're driving. 1,500 feet for our Canadian and European friends is about 0.46 kilometers. Now, I found a really interesting link, which I'm going to put below in the comments section. If you're watching this on YouTube, it will also be in the description. So you'll be able to access this link. It's called mapdevelopers.com, and you can enter your specific address and enter into the little boxes to the right of the address, either 1,500 feet or 0.46 kilometers, and it will draw a circle around that radius from your address. So it's kind of as the crow flies, but it'll give you a really good idea of what you can access by walking. That's kind of an interesting thing to look at. In my world, when I did that, 1,500 feet was enough distance to get me to a pharmacy, a couple of restaurants, a couple of shops, but my bank was just beyond that radius. I know you're going to tell me I can do online banking, and that's true, and for the most part, I do online banking. But there are times when you just want to have a bit of cash in your wallet for this, that, and the other thing, and for that, I need to go to the bank. We have 2 grocery stores in this town. I can't get to either one of those. Can't get to the post office. So if I didn't drive, that would be somewhat challenging for me, and it would actually make my house something of an island for me, an island beyond which I couldn't go without a boat, somebody else's car in this case. Paula messaged me to say that with technology being the way it is, she feels very confident that without her car, she could do her banking online, order her groceries, Skype with her children and grandchildren, and do yoga in her house via YouTube videos. Good for you, Paula. I'm glad that you figured that out that far. However, there are things that you didn't address. You can order your groceries online. Yes, I can do that too. I still have to get them, which means I have to call a taxi or depend on a friend to go and get these groceries and bring them to my house. So I presume you would have to do likewise. You'd also have to get to the doctor, the dentist, the hairdresser. What if your doctor wanted you to go to a specialist appointment that was in another town or city? You know, there are things that just aren't on the list. And high on the things that were not included on Paula's list was socialization. Now, social isolation has been described as the #1 health risk of our time. It is really very devastating, and it leads to depression. This business of being isolated from your friends, from your neighbors, from society in general is not a healthy thing, and particularly not healthy as we age. So that's something we need to take a look at. Could you legitimately stay in your house and have all the services brought to you? Sure. If you can afford it, you can do that. Not sure that it solves your isolation problem unless everybody's going to come to you along with it. But it may be a solution for you. I can think of some scenarios where you would have to depend on other people to do things for you that you used to be able to do for yourself when you had a car, but then you wouldn't be independent any longer. And independence is the name of the game. As long as you can do things for yourself, you should do things for yourself. Now, it's one thing if you ask your son-in-law, which I do, to come once a year and clean the leaves out of the eaves trough, or if my daughter comes to pick me up because we're going to the same place and we want to drive together. I'm not talking about those kinds of scenarios. I'm talking about the kinds of things that you need to have done that you used to be able to do for yourself, and now you can't because you don't have a car. So how do you go about figuring this out? I'll give you a very easy sort of 1, 2, 3 system to do this. Get yourself a piece of paper, just a regular piece of paper, and on one side of it, over the next few days, start writing down the things that you do, the places that you go. It may take you a while to figure this out, but think about the places you go on a daily basis, once a week or twice a week, every now and then throughout the month, every now and then throughout the year. To the best of your ability, write down those places where you are now able to take yourself without depending on another human being to take you there. Okay? Let's assume you're going to stay where you are right now, and you've got this list. On the right side of the page, start figuring out and writing down how you would get to all of these places and accomplish all of these things if you didn't have a car. It might take you a while to really think about it. How would I do this? How would I get my groceries? Well, I can order them online, but then I'd have to hire a taxi to go pick it up. Or maybe my adult child would go pick them up. Or maybe my neighbor next door and I could do a joint trip. Like, you've really got to think through every one of these scenarios. How would you accomplish this stuff? If there's a cost involved, write that down. So if you have to hire a taxi or an Uber, write down the cost of that. If you are able to take transit, write down the cost of that, because that is a cost involved that you wouldn't incur if you had a car. I know cars cost money. This is not an apples to apples comparison. I'm just saying if you didn't have your car, this would come out of your budget. So you've got to keep a list of what this would cost you. Now, if you've got highlighter pens, once you've got some semblance of a list together, get those highlighter pens, and I want you to highlight all of the places that you would pay to get yourself there to accomplish whatever that task might be. One color highlighter for the places you pay. If you have a different color highlighter, highlight the places where you would be depending on a friend or a family member to get you there and accomplish that task. If you have a third color, write down the places you could walk to. Now bear in mind that if you live within walking distance of a grocery store, the groceries you bring home might be too much for you to carry. So it's all fine and well to walk there, but if you have to hire a car to get you home, that counts as something that's going to cost you money. So write that down, okay? When you're done, you need to figure out if you can accept the level of dependence that you have on others to accomplish these tasks and the level of budget that it's going to cost you on an annualized basis to accomplish these tasks. Now, no judgment from me. This isn't about whether or not the level of risk that you accept is a level of risk that I find acceptable. This is what you will find acceptable as a risk to undertake to get your tasks done. Okay? This is all you. Is this acceptable to you or not? This is stuff we don't normally think of, and that's why I want you to write this all down and see if it's acceptable to you. Ron wrote to me, and he said that he, and maybe you, would be willing to ask a lot of other people just to be able to stay in his house. That was his opinion. He's not interested in accepting risk or figuring out what it would cost him. He's perfectly happy asking everybody else to do for him what he is now able to do for himself. That's fine. But to Ron, I would say this. You wear out your welcome with family and friends very quickly when you're asking them to do for you, take you hither and thither, and pick up the slack in your life. Other people have busy lives too. They're raising children. They have other family members that they have to think of. They might have demanding jobs. I'm not saying that they wouldn't be able to help you. I'm saying that to bring them into your life as a regular routine might be too much to ask of them. And as much as they love you, they could come to resent that. So, because independence is what we're all about here, and aging successfully through that independence, advocating for yourself, I'm all in favor of you doing what you can do for yourself for as long as you possibly can. Only you know if you're going to be able to tolerate the level of risk, the level of dependence on other people that you will be incurring by doing this. Of course, there are other things that need to be talked about that we haven't talked about, and a lot of this stuff is included in the course that I'm writing, but just, as a little sketch of it all, if your house is 2 stories, but you get to the point where you can't do stairs comfortably anymore, and you're living in maybe 4 rooms on the main floor, kitchen, bathroom, living room, bedroom, all on the main floor, but you're heating the whole house, you're paying property taxes for the whole house, you're maintaining the whole house. I wonder, is that the place where you should be? Can you maintain the property all by yourself, or do you have to pay to have that done? That's an annual cost that you didn't used to have to incur because you used to do it yourself, but now you have to pay somebody else to do it. Is that a cost you're willing to bear on an ongoing basis? Do you have a plan for emergencies? If you fall, for instance, if there is an illness of some kind that means you can't get out of the house for days and get the medicine you might need, or get groceries so that you can have nutritious meals and get healthy again. Do you have a plan for all of that? Can you afford the normal repairs on your house? If you needed a new roof, a new furnace, a paint job, could you afford this out of your savings without infringing too much on the money that you may have set aside for your more senior years, when you might need that money, when everybody really is doing everything for you? Oftentimes, people want to stay in their familiar place so badly, and I understand that. I really do. But they can miss the fact, or they don't want to see the fact that it no longer suits their needs. Look at it this way. When you were in college or university, you probably lived in some inexpensive little apartment close to campus. You probably had roommates. You probably traveled by transit because that's what suited your needs at the time. When you had your first job, young, single, hip hop happening, you probably wanted to live where the action is. Maybe you lived downtown, closer to the bars and the restaurants. Maybe you lived close to where you worked. You probably still couldn't afford a car, so you probably still traveled by transit because that's what suited your needs at the time. A little later on, maybe when you were having a family, you and your partner may have moved to the suburbs because it's more family friendly. Schools, parks, recreation, they were all there and not downtown anymore. You see where I'm going with this? You made those moves because it suited your needs at the time, and you were willing to make the changes and leave behind some things as your priorities shifted. Now, you're a little older, and your priorities are shifting again. Whether you know it or not, whether you recognize it or not, and you may just be in the planning stages. You may be somebody who's watching this and you're still working, you're still in your 50s, and you're not really thinking this way. But we all need to think and plan ahead because we did that when we were younger. There's no reason not to make those plans now that we're a little bit older. So your needs are changing. And if the shift in your priorities indicates to you that independence is a priority, then these are some things that you probably want to think about. And maybe the place that you're living in now isn't the place where you can successfully continue living to the best of your ability. So you need to do some thinking and some planning. And this is all you. This is 100% you. You need to be content with the outcome. So I'm going to leave those thoughts with you, and I'm going to thank Susan and Paula and Ron and others who have written with various comments that were similar. I'm going to thank all of you because your questions and comments built today's show, and I am very grateful to that. I'm going to thank all of you for joining us. Next Wednesday, 12 noon, we'll be here again with a new topic. Until then, as I said at the top of the show, our website is theoldish.com, and if you would like to connect with us on other platforms, we're there. Just go to your favorite platform and type in The Oldish, and you will find us. Until then, be well, look after yourselves, look after one another. It does indeed take a village to age a senior.